three cases that we have. Okay, so let's move on. So after the first point of realizing that there is a thinking problem than a making problem, we have to understand now the different areas or types of investments that we can have. As you can see on the screen there, we have growth investment, and I'll try to be as simple as possible with this. Growth investment means you're actually investing for the long term. Okay, now the growth you're looking at here is the value. Okay, so that would be increase in volume of the currency, which also translates to increase in the value of the money. Okay, so and there are a few things we also need to put in mind when we're thinking of investment. Now, the first thing is, what is money? The second thing is, what is value? The third thing is, what is time? And the fourth thing is, what is currency? Now, all of these four things affect the quality of investments that you make. Okay, so when we talk about money, money is a legal tender. So that means if it is not supported by the location you're from, then you would not be able to trade with it. Okay, so you need to understand what money is. Is that legal tender that is permitted in the area that you're at, that allows you to trade with that community. So, for example, in Nigeria, Naira is the official currency, but you can still work with dollars because there are some people who work under the Nigerian territory that are still paid in dollars. Okay, so you understand that some of the money permitted or generally accepted in a given territory is the money. So Naira, dollars, and some of the things of that. So I've already talked about value before, which is the second thing that we need to note when we're thinking of money, investments, and financials in total. The value is the overall benefit or the opportunity that particular money or currency affords you. That is the value. And the reason why people work for money is to have two things. The first thing is freedom. The second thing is time. So we must understand that. So the first thing is freedom is the ability to make the best use of opportunities when such opportunities appear. Okay, and time, you are able to redeem time and maximize time because you have another resources that you can trade for, which oftentimes money is such a resource. Now, the third thing I mentioned is what is time, because every time we're thinking of investment, there is a common denominator, and that is time. So it could be per the hour, per the week, month, year, couple of years, 10 years, decades, as the case may be. So time is very important when we're thinking about investment. And one of the best ways people maximize investment is the concept of understanding of timing. Okay. The final thing is currency. Currency is a bit related to time, but I'm going to talk about that before the end of the session. Now, in the screen in front of you, you have different types of investments. So we have growth investment, which is usually you're investing for the long term, like 3 years, 5 years, usually from 5 years. Those are long-term investments. They will also have shares. That means you buy into the equity of a company or an organization, and in the prospect that such organization is going to improve and get better. Okay, so that makes you a co-owner in a way because you have equity with the organization or company. The third thing is a property, that's like real estate or infrastructure, because land is also a means of capital. And so when you build things on land, naturally, over time, the value increases. So when you are able to secure real estate, it's a good way, to put investment to use. Okay, now moving on. We also have defensive investment. This is when you do more, it's more about generating income than growth. So it's just to meet your basic needs, passive things that give you passive income and all of that thing. So you term that as defensive investment. Then we have general cash. So here with cash, we have account interest. So if you save money in the bank for like 3 months or thereabouts, and you don't touch that money, usually after every month or so, there's a little teeny weeny point of interest that builds on it. Okay, so that's cash. That's one of the lowest forms of investment because you're not actually putting your money to work. Other people are actually using that money for themselves. And also we have fixed interest. So things like bonds are also in fixed interest, and they're also lower risk than property or shares, because shares, anything could happen. The company could go down. Property, there could be an earthquake, disaster, people leave the area and the value of the area drops. Lots of things could happen that affects the quality of what we get eventually from things. Okay, so when we're thinking of investment, these are some of the areas we begin to look at, and every area has its advantages and also its disadvantages. Now, before you begin to think about investment, a few things you need to note. First and foremost, you need to understand the reason why you're investing. A lot of people invest because it's a lot of people are doing it, and there is so much noise about it. A lot of people are doing it, and because there is so much noise about it, so they've not really done their own due diligence to make sure that they understand why they're investing, or if such investment is what is in the best interest for them. So you need to draw a personal financial map. And what does this mean? And that's why people who really want to invest must be intentional people. So in the next 1 year, how much money do you want to make? In the next 5 years, how much money do you want to make? A lot of people who are investing right now are not thinking that way. Okay, because you really need to know that, and that is one of the things that tells you the right place to invest in, or the right kind of commodity or platform to invest in. Okay, so you need to make sure, how much do you want to make, or what are the goals? Are you thinking of buying a car, or you're thinking of a wedding, or you want to go on vacation and you don't want to go on your own money? You want to go on the money that comes from investments or any other form of profit? You have to think about those things and put it down, because that is how you begin to think strategically, about the future. Investment is really about the future, because if you're thinking only about the present, no need of investing. You just spend everything you have right now, and that's the end. Okay, so we need to draw that personal financial roadmap in the next 6 months, in the next 1 year, in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years. How much money do I want to have? It might not be entirely accurate, but at least have a framework, have an idea, because that also helps you to know where you're at and what the next milestone actually is for you. Okay, so it lets you know what are the things you're going to be doing per season and per time. The second thing is you also need to evaluate your comfort zone in taking risk. How much risk averse you're at. Some people don't like so much risk, so they don't want to lose so much. You just want that steady build up over time and see if compound interest is going to be in their favor. And some people are looking at the quickest money in the shortest possible time. That's really the highest form of risk. Okay, some people can do that. They have that risk appetite. So you also need to know for yourself. And how do you know your risk appetite? How do you know your risk appetite? How much money can you afford to lose? And you're not going to kill yourself, or you'll not get depressed, or you won't have hypertension. That tells you the level of your risk aversion. Many people have not thought about it that way, but really, that's how it works. Okay, so let's now the third thing is you also have to consider the appropriate mix of investments. It is not advisable to put all your eggs in a basket. You don't do that because you don't know what can happen to the industry. An industry could seem like it's doing well today, and a policy comes that totally shuts it off. Okay, so you need to make sure that the industry you're investing in is one that has prospects, but no matter how much you can beat your chest about an industry, you can't put all your eggs in it. Okay, so for example, if you have 5 areas to put your or diversify your investment portfolio, some of the areas I could think about would be you need more stable, tangible forms of investment. So these are the things that you can see. So there is a physical representation for them, like real estate. Okay, so real estate is something you can see it, you can see the building, you can see the house. That's one. I can also think about the areas or the things that people use a lot. What that affords you is that you have the privilege of volume and quick returns. So areas like FMCG, like food, people who are into food, or health, the pharmaceuticals, anything along those lines can also help. Then you can now think about organizations that are innovative. So maybe you're thinking of stocks of maybe Tesla, Google, Amazon. We don't know what can happen to Amazon since Bezos resigned or stepped down, but it's still something to look into. Then you can also go into things like the wave of the moment, cryptocurrencies. Okay, cryptocurrencies are also, because they have volume and they are high market caps for them. So basically, you see, we've not even started thinking or talking about how much you put into these investments. It's about the foundation. It's about the thinking process. It's about the best mind frame to be at before you begin to think about investments and all of these things. And also, one mistake that a lot of people make is they put all their money in investments, and it's difficult to get that money back. And so, before you even think about giving money or putting money into investment, you need to have emergency funds. Some money you just put aside in case something happens. So, maybe in case you lose your job or there is an emergency health wise or something, you just have to pump a lot, well, not a lot, pump money into it that you didn't even plan for. And that's something, it is when you satisfy this, that's when you're actually fit for investment. So a lot of people say that your emergency fund should be like about 6 times your monthly salary. So that means you just have that somewhere breathing. Maybe you could have it in an escrow or something for a while that you don't really touch. You would believe that you don't have that money. You believe that you don't have that money, but it's just in storage. So that's what emergency funds are for. So it is when you have satisfied all of these, that is when you can then begin to talk about investment or even think about investment. Okay, so let's move forward a little bit. So here are some of the things that you need to have at the back of your mind when you're going or thinking about investments. So the first thing is when you're trying to invest in stocks, for example, or a company, whatever it is that you're investing in, how does that company or that organization make money? That is to tick the place that this is a legal business. It's a credible business, and you know that they're not out there to dupe people. So you need to know how they. So, for example, when you see a lot of these messages where someone tells you if you put $100 in the next 45 minutes, you get $1,000 and all of that, like that is a red flag. How do they make that money that they will give to you? Because most times the models these guys use is OPM. They use other people's money, and they keep taking that cycle until it crashes. So these are what you call Ponzi schemes. Okay, so the first thing is, how does the company make money? You need to find out. All of this talks about due diligence. Okay. The second thing is that, can you illustrate the business model in simple form? So what is the business model of this company? Okay, is it brick and mortar? Is it franchising? Or whatever the case is, you don't have to be technical, just simple. Okay, just have a simple information about it. Then also, will this company be doing the same thing in the next 5 years? Because that is actually what you're investing in, that thing they're doing, because that's what's bringing the money, and that's what influences their business model. Okay, so you need to follow news about the company. Every company you invest in, you must follow them, know what's happening, follow their Twitter, get regular emails from them, be in the know. Okay, so is it likely to make more money in 5 years? Okay, thinking about the prospect of this organization or whatever area you're trying to invest in. So is it also a cyclic thing? Things like agriculture, is it seasonal? So you also need to have all of these things. These are the things you begin to check and look out even before you begin to start talking about investments. So this is the thinking process. Now, also you have to ask yourself, will this company still be relevant in 5 years from now? So you notice that we're in a certain point in this age where a lot of companies and organizations are going technological. So many companies who do not embrace this technology now might not really be doing well or doing as well as they should be in the next 5 years. So think about it. How many organizations have good representations online? How many of them are using artificial intelligence? How many of them are embracing blockchain? How many of them are thinking about the future, and seeing better ways of doing things? You have to know these things. Okay, it's what helps you as an investor, because when you invest in a company, you actually have a stake in that company. You have to make sure that you do everything within your power that you can to make sure that the company doesn't run under. Okay, so that they don't run you under the bus. So you also take a look at, is the company ahead of competition? So do they have something that is difficult to replicate? If it's ahead of competition, that's good. If it's not ahead of competition, then there might be an issue. Okay, so it's not something you want to put all of your eggs in. Okay, so if the company vanishes, will the world notice? What this means is that, are they solving a global problem? Okay, how resourceful and influential is this company you're investing in? So think about, is it a local company or a local brand or a local commodity? Is it national, international, or global? Okay. If it's a global company, it's a bit more difficult for it to just vanish in a day. It's easier for local organizations and companies, to feel more of the heat. Then also, do you trust the leadership of the company? So you see that all of these things have a lot to do with the information, intelligence of the market, of the business, and the people who actually run the company. Okay, this is how investments think. Okay, and you can actually do a whole lot better in that vice. Okay, so these are the simple things or the simple ways to look at things. Now we want to dive into things a little bit, and this is the point where I would want to get more feedbacks from people after I begin to mention a few things and a couple of things. Something that the people who joined in a bit late might have missed because I mentioned it at the beginning is that when you're thinking about investment, there are four things you must not joke with because these four things determine the quality or the future of your investment. And the first things are number one, what is money? And I said that money is a legal tender. So that means it's a legal means of exchange for value, for goods, or for services. Okay. Money also is usually accepted within a geographical area. Okay. So, for example, Nigeria spends naira, which is also the currency. If you're in the US, you spend the dollar. If you're in the UK, you spend pound. If you're in Europe, you could spend the euro. Okay. So that's money to them. That's what helps them to interpret and store value, which brings the next thing. What is value? Different currencies have different value. So naira is not as valuable as dollars. The dollar is not as valuable as the pound. Okay, so they all are at different level because when we're talking about value, value is not just a singular thing. It's a accumulation of different things. So things like the volume involved, the integrity of that commodity or the money, all of these things, and the longevity as well. Okay, so that is what makes up the value. Then the third thing, which is one of the most important things in investment, is time. Good investors have been able to study time, or they know how to predict time to a very high degree of accuracy. Okay, because time investment is all about time. Everything rises and falls on time. Now, time is the general denominator of everything. Then the final thing is the currency. Now, in the term I use for currency is the movement of money across hands. Okay, how much or how frequently does money change hands? So in an economy where money is hoarded, that means you'd hear the word like money is not in circulation. So that means money is not changing hands. And that is wrong for an economy because when that happens, the psychology of people predicts that they begin to hoard money as well. And also, because people are hiding money, everybody begins to increase their price. So I'll give us an example. Only one thing happens, and the people who sell fuel increase their fuel because people who go to the market and get these things, they have to transport themselves and they have to buy fuel. They also increase the price of the products they sell. And the retailer who sells this to you also increases the price because they need to, people who are doing it, they use the generating set and then they use petrol to run it. So before it gets to the final person, the money has increased multiple times. And most times, the person who is at the final end of the chain does not have an opportunity for his money to be improved. Maybe the person is a salary earner and has a standard salary. Okay, so we need to understand the need for investment. And investment actually means that sending your money on errands and letting it come back more to you. Okay, that's what investment is. It's a cycle of money. Your money works for you and then gets bigger either in value or in volume by reason of time. And by the time it's coming back to you, then it increases and it improves. Now, when we're thinking about investment, all of these things matter. So, the area that a lot of people seem to be interested in is the cryptocurrency and stock, because that's what the world is ablaze about at the moment. But honestly, in all honesty, I would say that if you're thinking of investment, cryptocurrency is something you should not just put to the corner. Okay, why is this? Because that is the future of money. Fiat, as we know it, fiat as in the paper money we all currently use, they are phasing out. And cryptocurrency is becoming the new tender. Now, cryptocurrency is currently a tender, not yet a legal tender. In some countries, they're already thinking about making it a legal tender. Now, the moment it becomes a legal tender, boom, the value explodes. Okay, and that is why many people who are called the first fingers or the innovators, the moment they see prospect in a coin, they go get as much as they can from it, so that by the time it gets to that point where they explode, they make multiple times the profit they can make from it. So when you're thinking about it, these are some of the ways you need to begin to look at it. Have physical or tangible areas to invest your money. Then also have areas that are not tangible, for like digital assets. So like cryptocurrencies, they're not physical, you can't see it, but they are stored virtually or digitally in wallets or whichever areas. Also, food is something that will never go out. So investment in things that provide food is also something to look into. Health also is something that can be invested in as well as real estate. Okay, because housing would always be a problem and there would always be demand for it. Now, there's also innovation in housing now, as we are starting to have smart houses, virtual contents, and all of that. It's not yet public yet, but in the next couple of years, all of these things will become, more pronounced. So these are some of the areas that you're supposed to look at when you're thinking of investment. So what I want to do now is to give everyone here an opportunity to ask just one question regarding any area of whether it's investment or something personal that will help you in the area of investment. And then once we've taken that round, then we can see where we go from there. Okay, so who is the first person who would bell the cat and ask the question? Anyone? If no one is asking a question, does that mean that we don't have anything that interests us when it comes to thinking investment, or how do we make certain decisions as far as the best form of investment is concerned? So if you are not in a place where you can speak freely, you can just type the questions down. That can also work, because the goal of this is not just to, okay, Victor doesn't have a question yet. Okay, so the goal of this is not just to push things at us, because after all of this, we will begin to make personal decisions based on the level of information we have and all of that. But before the questions start coming in, I want to give you a bit of a way investment thinking works. Now, Twitter is a very good place because Twitter affords you the opportunity to have real time news. Okay. So, whatever industry you're investing in, or whatever company or whatever organization, it will be good to follow those guys. So, like, I'll tell you what I do. I have a personal Twitter account, and that's personal. But I also have a Twitter account that I've created with the sole purpose of just following people in the financial market, companies that are doing well, and the areas I want to think of investing in. That's what that account is for. So I make sure that every time there is a post or a tweet rather, I get notification of it, especially if these tweets have to do with companies or organizations or trends. So I have news about every coin, like cryptocurrency now. every coin that is doing well that I'm already taking a look at and I'm thinking I might get them pretty soon, I follow them online. You also need to make sure that you're following the right handle and not just following some guys that just trying to scam people. Okay, so that's very important as well. So the coins, the industry, and the influencers. So, for example, if you're someone who is bedazzled with technology, Elon Musk is someone that you follow because the guy is becoming a principality now. Now his tweets changed the market. Okay, so he's someone you follow, and everyone who. So this is. Let me just give you the example. This is how I do it. So for every coin, the coin company they have founders, CEOs or co-founders, as the case may be. You must know them and follow them. There are also events relating to certain coins. You follow them. Now, what this affords you to do is it lets you know anything that happens in that industry so that you'll be able to make the right choices based on your investment. Now, there's also something in the crypto sphere that is called whales. They're called whales. So they call them whale alert. Whale alert means that if there's a huge chunk of digital coins that is moving from one wallet to another, there is an alert that goes on. Why is that important? If a lot of money is going somewhere, there's a reason for it. And most of the times it affects the demand and supply of that particular coin. So the moment I see maybe there's a whale alert of maybe 210 bitcoins is moving from one wallet to another, then I start checking the price and see if it's the right time to enter the market and invest. Okay, there's a question from Latif says, I do not know much about the investment market, especially cryptocurrency. Where do I start? Okay, Latif, I think the first place to start is information. There are lots of YouTube videos, or I can also send you some links that explains what the coins are, what each coin represents, and some of the prospects that these things have. It's also important to note that when we're thinking or talking about cryptocurrency, we have certain terms. So we have coins, we have volume, we have market capitalization, demand, and we also have what we call wallets. Now, wallets are what we call banks now. Okay, so you have different kinds of wallets that suit different purposes. Just the same way someone could have, I don't want to mention the name of banks, but Bank A, Bank B, Bank C. And these banks have different things. So, for example, if you look at the top 5 banks in Nigeria, you know them, and you notice that for the past 4 years, they've consistently been holding that level. It means that when you're thinking of working or using the banking services, they're usually one of the best ones to go for. The same thing with wallets. There are different kinds of wallets. So I'm sure you must have heard of things like Luno, Binance, Coin Market, Trust Wallet, Robinhood, and all of these things. They allow you to have wallets to store your digital assets or your coins. But there's a whole lot about cryptocurrencies. And I think the best thing I would do for you is to, after this session, I would send you some links, or if you then have other questions along that line, I would be glad to answer it. But the best thing you can do is to go online, read about cryptocurrency, the good, the bad. There are certain reports that have been sent. If you are a member of the community, Lamont community, there are certain reports and intelligence that I send monthly. So that also helps you to understand how the cryptocurrency sphere works. You also need to know that there are pros and cons in cryptocurrency. It doesn't mean that it's foolproof. Okay, that's where your risk appetite is also very important. Okay, so is there anyone else who has probably questions or concerns or something you'd want to talk about before we begin rounding up? Anyone? Let me see how I'm trying to go back on this so that those that were not here when it started can see on the screen some of the things we talked about. Okay. Okay, Emmanuel also has no questions at the moment. Okay, so here are some of the things that you need to here are some of the things that you need to consider really before you start investing. What's your personal financial roadmap? How much do you want to make at the end of the year? If you can't do this by yourself, you can meet a financial coach to help you draw that pattern. What's your comfort zone? What's your risk aversion? How averse are you to risk? What are the areas or investments you might likely think of investing into? I've mentioned them before. So areas like health, areas like food, like real estate, agriculture too, and also cryptocurrencies and other digital things, and also stocks of companies that are doing well. So for example, if you have the Bamboo app, your BAMBOO, the Bamboo app, it allows you to have access to companies that even while you're in Nigeria, you can invest in. Okay, so but for the Bamboo app, for example, they need to verify yourself. So you would need an international form of identification, like your international passport. Okay, so those are some of the things you need in the process of registration. But once that is done, you can trade, you can buy stocks, you can buy from Nokia, Samsung, every company that's got stocks all over the world. Okay, so these are also ways we need to begin to look at. But while all of this is done, we also need to understand that there are two ways to have investment, and this is one of the things might likely round up with today, and that is if you have satisfied all of the levels that you have on the screen. If you haven't, you might chat me up after now to tell me which level you're at and see how you can move to the next level. But if you have, there's two things you need to do. Number one, split the amount of money you want to use to invest into two and make a huge chunk of that, maybe like 60-40 or 55-45, whichever one you like, or even 70-30, and make the huger chunk of this investment outside Nigeria. Why? Remember, I mentioned about money, about value, and time, and all of that thing. Because the naira is a weak currency at the moment, and it's still looking like it's getting weaker. And so, if you invest in naira, even though you're getting proceeds from it, the overall weight and value of that currency might not really be the best. Okay, so if you can have ways of investing in other currencies or outside Nigeria or global corporations or stocks, these are some things I would really want you to consider. However, you also need to invest in Nigerian companies. Well, maybe not Nigerian companies in the sense of buying stocks and all, but still trading in naira. I mean, because when the return comes, sometimes you still need that naira to make sure that you have liquidity and all of that. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do for people who are here and you're part of the Lamad community. There's certain resources. Lamad is on Signal, the Signal app. So there are certain resources that I would also be sending just to make sure that we are up to speed with this. Now, this is very important because if you understand the concept I've just shared with you, then the quality of your decisions on investment will improve. You will not rush to do things. You will understand that there is timing to investment, and that means the time you enter investment are very important. The worst time to enter an investment is when everybody has gotten a wing of it. That's the worst time. And this is where investment requires a lot of due diligence and intelligence. You need inside knowledge. So before a lot of things become public, you already get a wing of it and you know how things will go. And that's why Twitter is a very great place to get quick information, on how to move. And then it's also good to be a part of a community or an investment community that talks about news, articles, sessions, programs, trainings, or anything that helps to improve the quality of the investments that you make. Okay, so this is the final call. I would like to know if there is anyone here who still has a question they would love to ask. If there isn't, then we can now begin to round things up. So I'll count down in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so that means that we do not have questions. However, one of the things I would also love to do is from time to time, either on the community or my status, I would put in things that could help people who are thinking of investments, along the line. Okay, so this is where we'll be drawing the curtain here. Investment is very important. It's one of the easiest ways you can be a millionaire in the next 3 to 5 years. Okay, so please do not take this opportunity for granted. You can make a lot of decisions that would secure your future by thinking well about investment. And this is the right time to make that decision and to make everything up. And I also think it's the reason why this is starting at the beginning of the year, so that the further decisions you make towards the end of the year could be, more proactive and all of that. Okay, so that's how we're gonna call it a time today. I hope this has been of value to everyone who has participated. I'll still try to make sure that I get word across to people so that I know how you can grow or whichever area you might need help with regards to investment thinking. Okay, so this is where we're going to draw the curtains for today's investment thinking session. So I hope that the rest of the year will be a positive one for you, where you make a lot of valuable and profitable investments ventures. Okay, have a wonderful day and enjoy the rest of your weekend. So we'll be closing things now. Thank you. All right. You're welcome. Okay. All right. All right. Thanks. All right. Yeah. Yeah, so I would also get some information to you personally, Latif, so that you get that. Okay. All right. Thank you, Victor. Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you, Latif. Thank you, Temitope. Thank you, Damaris. Thank you, Simeon. Thank you, everyone. Yeah. All right. Yeah.